There is not one person who thought, my God, what is happening? I need help and resources. Harry and Meghan, they'll tell me what to do. No. And also, days into the chaos, confusion, and crisis, you finally, compile all your little links that you already had, because they're the same links that you issue every single time there's anything that's going on. Days into it, you finally deign to publish something on your sad, sorry little website. This is what people get. But if people were inclined to come to you for help, it's too late.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise, and today we're going to do kind of a news roundup. Now, some of these stories are things that obviously you're going to expect me to talk about, the fires in LA. And some of this stuff is just some random things that I saw that I thought, I want to talk about that. The first thing I want to talk about is not necessarily new news, but it is, again, a variation on a theme that we've discussed on this channel many times. And that is, what's going on with those kids that Meghan and Harry have? And I know you're like, oh my gosh, is she going to talk about this again? I mean, how many times? I'll be brief because I understand. But I do think this is interesting because I think it lends a certain credence and believability to the story of the surrogate. There's an article that I saw that was actually published on January 2nd, but I continue to see reverberations of it this week, where Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle have come out to say, Meghan did not have those kids, and we know she didn't because she came and got her frozen eggs 9 months before Archie ever saw the light of day. Suspicious, you might say. I would. And there was an article that came up in the Economic Times that discussed it. I don't know what the Economic Times is doing talking about Harry and Meghan, but look, we all got to pay our bills. And in the article, they were saying that Samantha Markle had sat down with Dan Wooten and had discussed the fact that if there's a legitimate question about the surrogacy of these kids, the royal machine needs to make sure that people's questions are delegitimized. At this point, everybody's going, what's happening? Because the Portland hospital where Meghan had the kids says they have no records of Meghan.
The CEO states that after thoroughly searching their records, there is no evidence that Meghan gave birth at the Portland hospital, let alone on May 6th as claimed.
Honestly, who even cares about all of that? We saw Meghan's stomach fall down between her legs. Need we ask more questions? It seems fairly obvious. So in the Economic Times earlier this month, of course, they referenced Lady Colin Campbell to death because she's the one that's griping about it so much. It's Armageddon if we don't answer this question. So I don't really care so much about what Lady Colin Campbell has to say about anything. But I do have to say that this business that Samantha Markle had to say when she weighed in was interesting. You all know that I think Samantha Markle and Thomas Markle, these estranged family members of Meghan, are a bit bitter. But I do think that if my sister had gone through the world claiming to everybody that I was pregnant and that I was having a baby, and I knew full well she'd had a hysterectomy and come to collect her frozen eggs, not but 9 months before Archie was born, I might be a little rankled and have a few things to say in the press myself, if I was so inclined. Well, Samantha is so inclined, and she spoke to Dan Wooten, and she said, my father said 9 months before Archie was allegedly born that Meghan picked up her frozen eggs. I thought that makes sense. There would be a surrogate involved. But why the secrecy? Samantha questioned, further suggesting that if surrogacy was indeed used, it would disqualify Archie and Lilibet from the royal line of succession, as heirs must be born to a titled royal mother. Samantha also expressed frustration about the lack of transparency, saying, if they use a surrogate, admit it. Instead of lying to the world, just say, we're using a surrogate. Well, obviously they can't admit it, because if you can't have your kid in line to the throne, and that's their only claim to fame, then why would you come around and say it? But see, to me, the greater fraud here is the fact that you would come out with your fake belly swinging between your legs and still insist that we believe. I can understand, I understand to a certain extent, the devious mind that would think, hey, I don't want my kids to be disqualified from the throne, in case a plane goes down and full of everyone we know. I'd like my kid to still be in line for the throne. So I'm not going to come out and say the very thing that's going to disqualify him from that position, that he was born of a surrogate. But when your stomach is falling down between your legs, it's time to just meet your maker when it comes to the truth. And I think it's time to just come out and be like, you know what? I schemed, I played, I lost. And yes, we did use a surrogate, but I'm not ashamed of that. If anything, Meghan and Harry should use this as a platform for people to not be ashamed, nervous, and scared if they used a surrogate. Now, of course, that kind of opens up a whole nother can of worms when it comes to, are any of those practices ethical? But that's for a different video, different time, different channel. But if Meghan and Harry did use a surrogate, why are they constantly ignoring the things in their lives that could actually give them an interesting platform? They're constantly rehashing, reusing, and coming in late to the party on everything, as I've said many of the time. Yet here is something that they could legitimately do and say, Meghan can say, I was not able to have kids, so we used a surrogate, and now we have 2 beautiful kids. Why don't you talk about that? That would be way more interesting than, her coming in and telling us for the bajillionth time about the time she wrote in a letter about some soap, some dishwashing soap, when she was 11. And that's her big claim to the feminist movement. Not interesting. But why don't you come out and talk about surrogacy? Talk about that form of motherhood. I don't know. I mean, that would be something. And the same thing for Harry when he made that stupid polo documentary. Yeah, what he should have done, and I said it last video and I'll say it again, what he should have done is said, hey, this sport is quite cruel and the animals are treated terribly and they're just beaten to death, literally, sometimes. And why didn't he come out and say something like, I really would like to reveal and unveil the realities of what polo means for some of these polo ponies? That would have been an interesting documentary. But no, he didn't do that. They never look at their life and think, how can I make what I have interesting to the masses of people? Meghan's over there in her kitchen cooking things that we've already seen 1,000 times. But as somebody pointed out in my comments, they said, why does Meghan, who claims to love to travel, why doesn't she do like a travel cooking show? Where she goes and she tries interesting food and interesting dishes. An Anthony Bourdain kind of situation. Meghan herself said that Anthony Bourdain would be the one person she'd want to have dinner with. Okay, well then take his legacy and build upon it. That would have been an interesting show. But no, she can never do these things. To continue on this thread of, here come Harry and Meghan, they want to join the party, they want to talk about what everybody else is talking about. The fires, okay? The fires are ravaging Los Angeles, burning down neighborhoods, completely destroying everything that people have worked for. Beautiful, historic, lovely homes leveled. It's unbelievable. And, I could go on for some length about the fact that this was completely predictable. But everybody's talking about that, so I won't bore you. But what I would like to say is that Harry and Meghan have jumped on this and, they want to be, soldiers for a good cause. But everything they do is so lame. They come running out here honking, hey, you guys, you know what? There's an emergency. Did you know that a state of emergency has been called? There's a state of emergency. And they get on their little website, Archwell Foundations, and they give us a little letter about the fact that this is a state of emergency, you guys. So don't forget to check on your elderly neighbors. Also, the Red Cross is a great establishment for on-the-ground help. So call them if you need to. Remember, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Little late to the show, friends. People's houses are decimated. If that elderly neighbor is still there, I'd say it's time to call the morgue, not go knock on their door and check on them. Okay? The Red Cross is a really great resource. Okay, tell us something we don't know. It's like, of all the things, the New York Post was rather scathing in their iteration of this story. They had an article yesterday. It said Meghan and Harry shared an urgent message about the LA fires. Quote, a state of emergency has been issued. Yeah, it has been. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have spoken out about the destructive LA fires. Yeah, them and every other celebrity. This would have been horrifying if it had happened, and nobody could have predicted this was going to happen. But we have Joe Rogan 6 months ago talking on his show about this, and he was talking about the fact that he'd spoken to a fireman who told him that this exact thing was going to happen.
One day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind, and fire's going to start in the right place, and it's going to burn through LA all the way to the ocean, and there's not a thing we can do about it. He goes, we get lucky with the wind. He goes, but if the wind hits the wrong way, it's just going to burn straight through LA, and there's not going to be a thing we can do about it.
So with extreme predictability, this fire has occurred, and everybody is upset about it. But for Harry and Meghan to weigh in and put onto their website days into the fires, they go, in the last few days, wildfires in Southern California have raged through neighborhoods and devastated families, homes, schools, medical care centers, and so much more, affecting tens of thousands from all walks of life. Their statement began noting that a state of emergency has been issued. I mean, this is literally walking into a burned out hovel and going, hey, did you know there was a fire here? They have a variety of people and nonprofits that they've collected, little links. It's a collection of links is what it is. And then they just finish it up by saying, if a friend, loved one, or pet has to evacuate and you're able to offer them a safe haven in your home, please do. And be sure to check in with any disabled or elderly neighbors to see if they need help evacuating. Well, this is days into the fire. The help to be evacuated if you're disabled and elderly has long since passed. Pointing out other ways that people could give back, Harry and Meghan wrote, "Some families and people have been left with nothing. Please consider donating clothing, children's toys and clothing, and other essentials." The royals ended their statement by mentioning that the American Red Cross, quote, "is on the ground helping those in need." Yeah, tell us something we don't know, like literally. The Red Cross, I mean, yeah, I think they're there. You know, they usually are there in a time of crisis. But the whole statement, so lame and unimportant. Getting on your Archwell Foundation and just like posting a bunch of links and being like, remember to check on the elderly and the disabled. Remember to donate clothes and essentials to fire victims. Days after the event has occurred. Just jumping on it because, you know, their celebrities are talking and everybody is, you know, chit-chatting about it. And then they want to like run in and be like, we're helpers too. See our capes? We're also supermen. It's like, by providing us a bunch of links to charities and stuff that you are attached to random things and to telling us that, you know, the Red Cross is there and, you know, as animal lovers, there's a clinic over here that helps animals, you know, with fire damage. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it's helpful, you know, if you really had nowhere else to go. But I can guarantee you that there is not one person who thought, my God, what is happening? I need help and resources. Harry and Meghan, they'll tell me what to do. No. And also, days into the chaos, confusion, and crisis, you finally, you know, compile all your little links that you already had because they're the same links that you issue every single time there's anything that's going on. Days into it, you finally deign to publish something on your sad, sorry little website. And this is what people get. But if people were inclined to come to you for help, it's too late. Well, I think we've covered the fire situation. Obviously, you guys are probably sick to death of hearing about it. Not sick to death because you're hard-hearted and don't care about people, but everyone's talking about the fires and everyone's talked to you about it from every single angle. So I won't continue on there. But I will say it would appear that the royal family, these outliers, Harry and his chaos and Andrew and his chaos, continue to be a thorn in the side of the royal family. So we're going to pivot from Harry and Meghan and go to this other individual who is an absolute noose around the neck of King Charles. His brother Andrew. Let's talk about a story that I saw recently that I just thought, oh my gosh, what is happening with Andrew? Somebody has got to figure out a way to lock that guy down. He is as deviant as the day is long. He's been living in Royal Lodge, an incredible mansion that he cannot afford to staff or run or take care of properly. And Charles has been trying to get him out of that house for ages. He's been trying to cut down on any expense that Andrew has. But not only is he living over there in a house that he cannot afford, on funds that the royal family cannot afford to give him, and they have tried to cut him off over and over and over. Charles has said, move out of the house, move out of the house, move out of the house. He's still there. And do you know who else is, squatting in there with him? Only his estranged wife, Fergie. They're divorced. Yet she's decided to come over and squat down on her haunches and stay too. And recently, she was being interviewed because she's come into some money. She's involved in some project. And so now she's come into a good chunk of change. And so they asked, oh, well, now that you don't have to live with your ex-husband in the accommodations that he's not actually supposed to be in anymore, are you thinking about possibly moving out? She stood herself right up and, marched her little hindquarters on out of there. She was so offended by the question. How dare they ask me if I'm going to move out? Well, how dare you live there? You are not in the royal family anymore. You divorced yourself out of this situation. And now that you have nowhere else to go, you come wandering back in, wanting Andrew to take you in. And he is like, oh, come on, let's all go. And so it's just the two of you two weirdos squatting in this house. The royal family's like, get out. But the mysterious thing is that Andrew has some kind of financial backer. No one can seem to piece who his financial backer is. But somebody is paying for his lifestyle. Could it be the Chinese spy that suddenly has entered the picture? I mean, this is a whole video in and of itself that I need to do. I'm curious to know, what do you guys think about the fact that these two weirdos are just squatting in a house that they can't afford to be in? That they have funds. Fergie now has funds from this other project of hers. Andrew, his mysterious financial backer, Epstein's gone, but he doesn't seem to have any trouble finding somebody else who's going to pay for his lifestyle. Probably has him blackmailed as well. And they're just hanging out. I mean, what is the recourse for Charles here? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on in England. I don't understand a lot of the laws, and I don't understand a lot of the things. One of the things that as long as we're talking about what's going on in England. I saw another story this week that just raised my eyebrows to the actual roof. The story was about this woman who apparently had murdered her parents. Now, in America, we tend to use guns. If we're going to be fouling up the world that we live in, the gun is our choice. That's the tool. In England, where folks aren't just packing 24/7, it's the hammers and the knives that are typically used. I took a whole class on this in college. I'm not really sure what in the world I was doing on that class, but we're talking about the difference, at least there was a section of the class, that we talked about the difference between the crimes committed in England and the crimes committed in America, and it's hand-to-hand combat over there. Well, this lady had decided that she was really going to take, she was done with her parents. It was time for them to go. And so she had, I believe, I only saw this short video. So again, this could have been a whole video in and of itself, but she was done with her parents. And so it would appear from her testimony when the police came and, they find her just as chipper as ever. It would appear that she had given them several cups of poison to drink, and her elderly father managed to get himself through 2 of the cups of poison before he was out. But then she finished the job with a hammer. Her mother as well met the same fate. Not knowing what to do with the bodies, she stashed them around the house. And when the police came knocking, she's like, "Oh, yes. Well, I was expecting you. My mum's upstairs." Literal bodies in the closet this lady had.
I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
Where about your mum?
a little bit more complicated. Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed at the back next to the sink. He didn't drink all of them. He only drank probably about half of 2. But yeah, when I went in the morning, this was before my mother, came in and he was gone. I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy. I mean, I deserve to obviously get whatever's coming sentence-wise, because that's the right thing to do. And that might give me a bit of peace.
Then she's telling them about where is the hammer.
Yes, it is very hard to talk about. That's probably the most grisly detail. There's a hammer. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it.
She wasn't even trying to hide it. "I was expecting you, yes. Well, I mean, I deserve punishment. I did do it." I mean, I've never seen anybody this calm. It is though the bug man came and you're like, well, we've had some roaches along here, and we're grossed out about that, and we got an ant situation. The way she was talking about it was like some minor shame, it's like the same minor shame you'd have if the bug man came and there were bugs in your house and you're it was had gotten to an out of control point. So there's some minor shame about needing help, but accepting that you had to have it. Well, yes, I know. I mean, I knew you'd all show up eventually. Yes, well, I didn't know what to do with the bodies, but they're upstairs and the hammer's over there. It's just it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So anyway, that's my British news for today. We've got Andrew squatting with his estranged wife, and we have people just wielding hammers and handing out cups of poison. But on the theme of people who respond oddly to death, let's talk about Allison Holker. Allison Holker is the wife of Twitch. He was the DJ on the Ellen Show who really, sadly and unfortunately, passed away under his own hand, if you know what I'm saying. And it was shocking. People were really shocked that it happened. And his wife has very publicly grieved over that. And not too long after he died, she had published a children's book kind of discussing the way the family was grieving and the fact that as a family they had done a lot of family dance parties and that they were going to kind of dance their way to the light kind of vibe. It wouldn't have been something that I would have done. I remember the time when I saw that she'd written the book, I thought, well, that's an interesting take. But she was, an alum of So You Think You Can Dance or something like that. She's on some kind of dancing show. So dancing isn't her background. Music obviously was in Twitch's background. They obviously were a family that loved some dance and some movement and some music. And so if that was the way that the family sort of related to and called back the comfort of having a dad in the family, okay, fine, they can do whatever. To me, it wasn't a dance party. Fine, have the dance parties. But it was more like making a children's book and sort of profiting off of this window into their world. But making it sort of palatable because it was in a child book form with lots of bright illustrations. So you didn't really catch the fact that it was necessarily like a dark thing to do. It was just sort of, okay, that's interesting. And there's so many kid books out there right now that are all trying to help children out of the darkness. Mostly adults trying to work out their demons, but say it's a children's book. So I was like, well, there's a whole breadth of children's literature like this now. So, okay. I didn't think too much about it. But now recently she's come out with a memoir, and she is exposing her husband and all of his demons and his drug abuse and all of the things that I guess led him to ultimately end things. And there's been a huge outcry because people are like, okay, how many times are you going to exploit your husband's death for a paycheck? And, I know people have to grieve in different ways, but your husband is no longer here because he was hurting so badly. Is the best thing for you to do to honor his memory is to sort of grind in our faces all of the things that he felt so badly about. That's why he's not here. And now you're exposing all of those things to a population that, one, didn't ask for it. But then two, you're exposing the very things that caused him to end things in the first place. And it's strange to me that a wife would do that. It seems born out of anger. And I'm sure, if somebody decides to end things like that, and you have a family and young kids, and, somebody just is like, I'm out, of course you'd be angry. I'd be furious. Of course I'd be sad, but there would also be a part of me that would be furious. Like, how could you do this to me? How could you leave me like this? How could you leave me to have to explain this to our kids? How could you leave me alone like this? Why didn't you just talk to me? Why didn't you tell me this was happening? Like, you'd go through all the emotions. And she has every right to go through every single one of those emotions, like deep, deep, deep grief over this, anger, frustration, wrath even, that you would have to find yourself in this situation. But I don't think that you should write a book about it and profit off of the fact that your family has had this grave misfortune. I don't know. It wouldn't be what I would do, but people like strangely to death, and celebrities are an interesting breed of people. They are so consumed with themselves. It is almost unbelievable. Which leads us to the fact that the Golden Globes happened earlier this month, and we saw a lot of interesting things out on that red carpet. And I won't belabor the point too long because this video is getting to a point where I need to wrap it up. But I will say, some of those outfits, you guys, and one in particular just left me going like, are you for real right now? And that would be Cate Blanchett's outfit. She wore a dress on the red carpet that she'd worn before. When celebrities rewear a piece of clothing, they act like they should be lauded and praised and given the Nobel Peace Prize for saving fabric. And, it just kind of makes you want to go, come back to earth, you sad, self-satisfied idiot. But she wore this dress again, and lots of celebrities will rewear things and sort of have them remade so that they appear slightly different, but not different enough that you wouldn't know and give them credit for all that they're doing for the planet. But not Cate Blanchett. She wore the same dress, not altered, but backwards. She wore her dress backwards. And to me, I can't decide if I'm confused. Well, I am confused, but I can't decide if I think that that's ridiculous or if I think that she was trolling us. Like, what's going on here? I don't think you would use the Golden Globes as the moment for you to troll the world in fashion in such a uncreative way. Putting on a dress and then putting it on backwards. What is she saying here? Is there a message, or is she actually so consumed by the culture that she is imbibing that she thinks that this was some interesting play on reusing and rewearing your wardrobe? I don't know. But we're coming to the end of what I wanted. I don't want this video to go on and on into infinity, but there's still something we have to talk about. And as long as we're on the topic of celebrities, can we talk for a minute about the fact that the Ozempic craze is killing y'all? Y'all don't look good. Let's just have a little moment here, okay? Come close. Let's gather around. It's done with the Ozempic. Y'all are done. Went to the Ozempic because it was going to be a real quick way to lose some weight, okay? And for the first 3 months, it worked for you, okay? You guys look fabulous, all right? Jessica Simpson had put on some weight and, she found her way out of it real quick. But at the 3-month mark, most people look like, okay, you've lost the excess weight. Okay, now it's time to think about a lifestyle change, not a medication change. And you can't get off Ozempic once you get on it, because as soon as you stop taking it, you get hungry again. I know this because I had several family members over Christmas who had been taking it when I saw them over the summer. And over the summer, I was like, wow, they look really good. Then I saw them at Christmas and I was like, what happened? Is everybody on chemo? I mean, it's a bad look. It's real bad. And I just feel like we need to stop embracing the skeleton look. Y'all look like you're dying. And it's a whole league of anorexics now. People in Hollywood, you see them and you're like, wait, who is that? In fact, even in life, like at Christmas time, we had an individual, an aunt, walk in who, we don't really know super well. My daughter comes over to me and goes, who is that? And I said, oh, you know who that is. And I tell her and she's like, it is? And honestly, I was 100% with my daughter. Like, yeah, is it? It is. But it was hard to tell. And, it's just one of those things where I understand the draw. I do. I get wanting to lose weight quickly. I get it. But now we're embracing a look that is so unhealthy. My sister sent me the other day a little video. She's like, who do you think this is? I'm watching and I'm like, a cancer patient? No, it was Lily Allen. Do you remember Lily Allen? Lily Allen was a little pop star. I would say 2008 was her, 2008, 2009 was, her real claim to fame. And she had all these little bubblegum poppy songs, which were a little confusing because the lyrics were kind of dark, but they sounded as bright as could be. And, I think that her weight had gone up and down over the years. But, you guys, what happened to Lily Allen? Am I right? And this is what happens when we're starving. Look, I'm all for people trying to get healthy, lose the weight. I get it. But we are literally killing ourselves with Ozempic. The people that I know who are on Ozempic have changed both mentally and physically. They are slower. They are less sharp. They walk around as though their bodies are caving in on themselves. It's not... it is past the point of, hey, you look good, girl, to good, what has happened? And I don't want anybody to approach me 6 months from the start of my Ozempic journey and be like, has the family enough money for a burial plot? Because everybody looks like they're one step away from the grave. Super scrawny and emaciated and the bones. There is a push now towards this super skinny 1990s heroin chic, but we're all getting it with Ozempic now. Is this what we want out of life? Are we so dead set on this idea that we've got to be thin, that we are now running towards the skeletons and saying, you are what I want? Because everybody is just looking sickly. The bony arms, the exposed bones of the chest, the cheekbones. Everyone's got that Ozempic face. Everyone, and everybody is happy about it. But I feel like the Ozempic craze. We're getting to the part now where death is imminent, and you guys, people are dying of Ozempic too. You know why? Because your colon stops working and it dies inside of you, and then you die because your whole system is being shut down inside of you. And all I'm saying is this: don't get sucked into the craze, you guys. Every single time I'm on social media, I am bombarded with messages, not just about Ozempic, but, the semaglutides and the GLP-1s and all of this. And every time I turn around, it's, oh, you could take this serum, or you could take this shot, or you could take this pill. And yeah, you could do all of that and shut down the functioning of your body. Do you know why you look so thin? Because you're starving. Because you found how to medically induce anorexia. And now you're just... you and all your gal pals are dropping weight and you feel great and LBs are going, And so is your life. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that. That's my little PSA. If you are feeling the pull of Ozempic, don't do it. Just do it the hard way. Learn a little discipline. Okay? I'm trying to do the same thing. Don't leave me. I'd love to just, take a shot in the ass and be done with this. But I also like my colon and I want to stay alive. So, the pros and cons. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. If you like this, let me know and we'll do more shows like this. This is my first one, so hopefully I'll get better and better at this. But if this was something that you liked and you would like to have a Friday news roundup, let me know in the comments and I'll see you guys later this week. All right, thanks again. Bye.